Uh, Thank you, Professor K.G. Suresh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Shunil Kanto Behra, Professor Kanchan Mullik, Dr. Maji, Dr. Acharya, and all others. I feel privileged to be here, and I am grateful to Professor Upendra Padi and others for giving me this opportunity. Also, to have this attendance prize, the only prize I used to get in the school days, nothing else. So I think I'll continue to get this attendance prize of being regularly present in all such conclaves. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to, I mean, excellent speeches by my predecessors, and obviously it is very difficult to speak after Professor KG Suresh. It's as good as you bat after Sachin Tendulkar or sing after Kishore Kumar or Mohammad Rafi. So it's very difficult. So, but I see my perception from a professional journalist who is also involved in media academics, that you see the changes which has come in. So it's a fourth conclave, and we must make it contemporary. So what are the changes? So media after COVID has seen a lot of changes. The first thing is the changes which came to media suddenly. The media was ready to cover or experience to cover any incident, any conflict, any disaster, anything else, but buns, crisis, but never has seen this kind of pandemic. Yes, we have covered SARS, flu, plague, etc., but this was completely new. So it took little time for us to understand what to do and what does neo-normal means. So obviously, the changes in the protocol or the working structure of the newsrooms suddenly came in, and what emerged is a distance journalism, that thanks to digital connectivity, that television became distant, that we don't go and we take interviews over these platforms, and then we produce. We have seen programs, especially in audio, and that means in radio or television also, that these mobile recordings have been sent to a person who have edited and then sent it to the place of broadcasting, and it was broadcast and telecast. So it was completely a new normal, within which a journalist had to understand to remain safe and to work in a distant journalism mode with more of mojo, mobile journalism, and what we call a zoom and boom, that we don't go close, we use zoom, and we don't go close and we use boomstick. So these are the phenomenon which has taken place. And for the print media, you see, the journalists were straightway, I mean, within the television also, there were two separate groups of made, and then the reporters were debarred from entering into the office. So you are on duty, but you are debarred from entering into the office. In the press club, we had to make certain arrangements so that the people can come and they sit in the lawn, maintaining the physical distance, have a little bit of food, and have other public amenities which are required, and at least the digital connectivity and a workplace. So they were debarred from. I make it a point that they said, no, you work from home, and many people could not work from home, had to go and visit to capture the realities from various places. So they had to be given an alternative workstation. So that was incidentally in Kolkata. We could do it in press club, but that's not the issue. The issue is a reporter is debarred from going to the office and work from home. And I believe that even after neo normal, this is going to remain, that this is showing a different economy of scale for the media industry, that lesser office, lesser infrastructure, lesser transport, and then the things are going on. So this is a new technology, new system, something new. And the safety, the journalist's safety, to know what to do and what not to do. So that was the first thing. By this time we have learned. But the second thing which we suffered was, uh, Professor Suresh has rightly referred to infodemic, and the WHO Director General himself has uttered that Even infodemic is more severe than the pandemic, because the rate of spread of infodemic is much, much more than pandemic. Now we have to understand, and at the same time, we have to understand also that the sources and the credible sources which were supposed to provide us information could not provide us the right kind of information. I don't want to blame this in organizations, but the information got changed. Whether the wearing of mask was essential, initially said no. Those who encounter with the positives, they only are required. Then the masks are mandatory. And in Delhi, if you don't wear the 2,000 rupees fine. So whether it is airborne or not, even there is ambiguity. Whether how does it come and the spread, etc., and how long does it remain, and a lot of other things, that what could be the precautions and things like that, because nobody knew it correctly, because it's new. So that's why all these things. So as a journalist, we were being provided with fresh information. We were communicating fresh information. So, and the one information was contrary to the earlier information. So this was something new that we faced with. And rightly, the fake news, infodemic, fake news, and FCN, facts checking network and system, this has become very popular. I think in the training, I appeal to a lot of media educators, who many of you have already taken this inside your curriculum, that each journalist, especially those who are going through a training system, formal training system, should be exposed to or should be able to do a fact checking, that how does one check a picture whether it is real or taken in this locality, or which date it was taken, etc., and the content, whether it's correct or not. And I would like to admire the effort by Press Information Bureau of their fake news detection systems. They have opened a new website where you send an information. If it is related to government, they will come back. There were a lot of information which came in the name of the government, that this decision, that decision, but which the government never took in reality. So this platform has been very, very effective. And I think a modern journalist should be equipped with fact checking systems. The Google and many other organizations have come forward to take these courses, and many of the media educators are taking these courses. So these are essential. And I think this is another one. Then we add encounter with the ethics, the privacy, to name a positive patient. Now, this is not much effective, because, every second, third, fourth person have become positive and things like that. Initially, there was a trauma, there was a stigmatization. So whether to disclose the identity, and on one side, yes, the building is to be sealed, the area has to be made in isolation and things like that. So whether to name that person, the medical ethics and the reporting ethics and right to privacy, there were a lot of concerns that whether we should name, and the ethics of reporting, which should not create any fear, unnecessary fear among people. It should not create any panic. In this connection, I would like to draw the Disaster Management Act, which provides a provision that if someone does this, someone is spreading panic, he could be taken into action. And there are other laws under Indian Penal Code which could be applied. And there have been cases. Many journalists were booked, and it will take a longer time, but I'll just touch upon that this is an ethical problem. Last but not the least, the impact to the media industry and impact to the media persons. Impact to media industry, it's not only work from home, that you have reduced your workforce, you have reduced your infrastructure. No, how many journalists, even from major media organizations, were shown the doors? We need to, I have a little idea about the numbers, but I don't want to bring it. The number is not the major issue here, but the reduction of workforce has taken place, and lot of senior journalists, junior journalists, new entrants have been fired. So this has been a reality we have seen. On the other side, initially there were apprehensions of the printed newspaper delivery and circulation. So it was affected severely for 1 week, 2 weeks, or something like that. And by that time, people have changed their habit, and they have gone to e-versions of newspapers, and because they want to avoid the contact of newspapers, the printed paper per se, and the delivery was also stopped. But and when initially the delivery resumed again, we saw only a 8-pager, major newspapers without any ad. But now during pujas, Diwali, and all other festive occasions, we see that yes, they are full of full page ad, front page ad, back page ad, and full classified and non-classifieds, and classifieds are full of COVID deaths advertisements, because that's the only way to intimate, because no ceremonies are allowed to take place generally. But that thing apart, so there was a loss of revenue and shift of readership for the print medium. We need to understand television industry also suffered. There have been reports, and there have been studies by Reuters Institute for all over the country, that how, I mean, sorry, all over the world, that how the print and television industries have suffered. So this is industry wise, it has suffered. There was reduction of ads, obviously led to pay cuts, led to joblessness, etc., etc. So this is another problem. And obviously, many people, as we say, and Professor Suresh, as sir has rightly said, that we have to depend on social media much more, alternative media. But how do we, how credible they are? Another study has showed that the individual consumption of social media like Facebook, WhatsApp has increased. You can find in your own habits that at night or during the free time in home, I mean, when you are a lockdown period, you were just doing something with the mobile, and they were always with Facebook and always with mobile. So this has been increased. But how credible are they? What do we depict like WhatsApp University or like that? Now there is no gatekeeping role, and the citizen journalists, everybody, and they have no problem in forwarding the message. That led to the changes of protocols of how many messages you could forward and how many things. So there is a control there. And from there, another court case reference, we all know that now there is a governance which is coming on the social media, and the gadget notification has brought the social media under the purview of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So there is a new thing that it cannot be, you cannot do whatever you feel like. You are forwarding without checking the reality, and this has become a habit. And you are writing anything and everything which you feel like, whether they are correct or not. And this is creating a problem. And this is what is actually infodemic is. So we have faced with this problem. The media has faced with this problem. On one side, definitely we know, sir has spoken about community radio very highly, and we all appreciate. Professor Kanchan Malik is there, who happens to be a specialist, and Professor Suresh has been there in the from IIMC as erstwhile DG. So they have done a lot of things, and it's a 1997 policy of community radio policy. And Professor Suresh has rightly said that it had to flourish. The number which was projected in 1997 has not touched upon yet, and several community radio channels are basically campus radios. I mean, if we Professor Malik must be having the figures that maybe 60% or so are campus radio. So this is it. They are there, but they also have a responsibility. So responsible journalism has become another factor which is very important, and the basic question of whether it is a consumer product or social good that has come. And definitely all these things have come. And while reporting in Mumbai, the freedom of press was also questioned in the court of law. And in Delhi also, in the major case, the migrant laborer case, the concept of the media was also criticized, and then the Honorable Supreme Court on the March 31 gave a judgment that any media organization has to quote an official release of the government or the center, the state government. And the court also asked the center and the state government to come out with statistical releases day to day. So the flow was ensured, and it was made mandatory that whatever else you report, the government did not touch upon the freedom of press right of allowing media to focus anything which they prefer. There is no pre-censorship that the Honorable Apex Court has talked about, but they said only one thing, that whatever figure the government dishes out, you need to publish it, or you need to carry it in your television media. So that was there. And then last but not the least, though it is not, I mean, there have been a lot of cases on media freedom, and it is not unfettered, ruled by the Mumbai High Court and the Honorable Supreme Court and all, while reporting the uh, uh, pandemic, or while reporting this, all these things had come. And lastly, we also have seen defamation ordinance in Kerala. This is not related to COVID, or this is not related to changes, but there have been lot of regulatory changes which had come in either through administration or through courts. So that is what has come in the recent past. So that also I just wanted to touch upon. So definitely media has gone through a enormous change. The everything has changed. Everything has changed. I don't know whether media will be able to, return to its original. If we go through the KPMG or INY report, annual report, we see that the growth rate is still double digit, around 10%, which is higher than the national GDP growth. But this is pre-pandemic. What happens in post-pandemic, we yet to see that how much actually did it suffer and when it could retrieve. So as a media person, we all are suffering, and I appreciate this uh, public health communication teaching module and training module to be extended to the journalists. This has become extremely important for journalists today. We are also working, sir, at the Press Club Kolkata with the UNICEF, and on the same way. And it has changed and it has suffered. The journalists and the media both suffered, and obviously digital journalism is future. Like this, lot of startup organization by the young journalists have come up, which talks about which takes care of the social media handles and social media management. So there is enough scope, and we need to tell our students that you should go for that. And individually, our presence in social media as a receiver and as a communicator has increased, and this is going to become a major way of disseminating news. That it is earlier it was the print which was the supreme source of information and news. Then one such time it was television, and then thanks to OTT, see, advent of OTT, the popularization of OTT has also become a major factor, that we are leaving the television set, but we are watching television content in a new platform called OTT. So all these changes have come. We wait for changes, but I fully agree with Professor Suresh that content is the king. Yes, definitely prince and queen, prince and princess too, sir. But definitely we have to think that yes, the content has to be proper, correct, and helpful to the society, at least in this hour. And there are many media educators. We also should think they should try to find out the content, correct content, disseminate correct content, but they should be well trained in digital media, because uh, job opportunity in traditional media, mainstream media, will decrease, that we know. And they're like individual independent television producers or filmmakers. These are the areas where they should be more trained more. So with this, I must conclude, and I know Debobani is already is touching his forehead but can't say anything. But okay, I must thank all these dignitaries for hearing me, and Professor Padi and the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I think you will kindly allow me to get this attendance prize. If not, I get anything else. Thank you very much.